So today I'm speaking with Dr. Marina Quattrocchi. Marina grew up with a passion for dreams and dream journaling and would go on to complete a doctoral thesis in dream work. She taught in formal education for over 18 years and has written 2 books, Dream Work Uncovered and The Genius of Spirit. And our conversation today is going to focus mainly on Dream Work Uncovered. And actually, Marina, I have both books with me right now. They're going to look probably backwards on here because my camera is mirroring, but I have Genius of Spirit here and Dream Work Uncovered right here. And how are you doing today?
I'm great, Lisa. How are you?
Good. I'm really good. So yeah, I guess just kind of to get started, maybe we could talk about sort of the idea of why some people seem to dream more often and more vividly than other people, and like what's going on there.
Well, yeah, most people really are surprised when they learn how often we dream. Like everybody dreams every night, whether we're aware of it or not. And most people will have, between 5 and 6 dreams every night. Now, what happens is when you're going through something important in life, like you might be switching careers or maybe getting married or retiring, or if anything significant in your life, you will tend to remember your dreams maybe for the first time, or you'll remember your dreams more because it's important that you make the right decisions, and your dreams are always guiding you in your best interest to make those critical life decisions. So some people will find that they don't normally remember their dreams except if there's something important going on, and then they'll start remembering them. Now, for the people who say that they don't ever remember their dreams, what I find is in my book, I give, techniques, and it takes the average person about 2 weeks before they really start remembering them all the time. I never had a student or a client who couldn't remember their dreams if they really made a sincere effort to do it. Some people are just more self-aware. People who meditate or engage in any type of spiritual practice will tend to have better dream recall. And it's interesting, when I've done talks with people, I do a lot of sort of group introduction to dreams talks, and people will say that they don't ever remember their dreams, but then they'll tell you that they did when they were young. So most of us remember dreams when we were children, and then in the busyness of life, we stop that process, which is a very natural and nurturing process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I had mentioned to you when we talked before, that was kind of what got me interested in looking into my own dreams was probably, and you talk about this in your book, this idea of, like when something's happening in your life. So I was at sort of a crossroads about maybe 3 or 4 years ago in my life. And I started realizing like, I'm having to make these tough decisions. And also what's accompanying that is really vivid dreams and like themes. So recurring themes happening. And I had looked at sort of different dream books just to like get some ideas of try to like figure out what was going on. And when I read yours, I liked that you explain lots of things, but you seem to really like advocate for people using their own intuition to figure out what's going on in their dreams. So I found that super helpful. And then, so I started keeping a dream journal. But like you said, like when I was a child, I did used to dream, but, and even as like in my 20s and things like that, but I never really I didn't pay too much attention to them really, just because I didn't make that connection between it actually making a difference and having some kind of guidance in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So maybe we could talk about that a bit, this idea of recurring themes in dreams and what that's all about.
Okay, so each of us, it's really fascinating because no 2 people dream alike. But when you start recording your dreams, you'll see that that the same theme will often come up over and over and over again. So there are 2 types of themes, or two types of sort of symbolisms in dreams. There are universal symbols or universal themes, and that means the same for everybody. So, things like, angels, everyone knows an angel means sort of spirituality and help and guidance. And a diamond ring means, a wedding or engagement. And a red heart means love. But then we all have our specific themes that mean something specific just to us. For example, one of the first themes I started to understand about myself, I've always loved riding bikes, and it's always something that I've done consistently. And so I started having a lot of dreams where I was riding a bike. And so you look at what happens in the dreams and your emotions. So when I was in order to ride a bike, you have to be sort of in balance, So when I was riding my bike and I was happy, I knew my life was in balance at that time. But if I was riding my bike and, hitting obstacles and roadblocks, then things weren't going smoothly in my life. So we all have our own personal themes that we can draw out of our dreams. And once you understand what the theme is, that theme might come up over and over and over and over again, and you'll know quickly what it really means. So for me, when I ride my bike, it's showing me whether I'm in balance or out of balance. And it's different for everybody. Like some people might love dogs. When the dog appears in the dream, it's associated with companionship and loyalty and positive things. But if you were bitten by a dog when you were young and you're afraid of dogs, when you dream about a dog, it could mean, danger or a warning, because a dog is not a friendly symbol to you. So there's those universal themes that mean the same for everybody. And then we all have our own private, symbols or themes that mean something specific for us and only us.
Okay. And what are some good ways for people to start to uncover what that theme might be trying to tell them? And is it possible for there to be like multiple themes carrying the same message? So for example, I've had a recurring theme. It hasn't been so much lately, but I have in the last 3 years where it's a driving theme. So either I'm driving or somebody else is driving, and then it's kind of based on, how quick or how slow am I hitting other cars? Have I lost control of the steering wheel? But then I've also had some recurring themes around stairs, where the shape of the staircase is kind of maybe weird, or it's missing some steps. So do you think that in a case like that those would be two separate things, or do you think they're kind of carrying the same message but just through a bit of a different theme? Or is every theme a different message,
Yeah, I think every theme is really a different message. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And how do you think people can, start to uncover for themselves what those themes might be telling them?
Well, let's just talk through some examples. So the
Sure.
two you mentioned are really excellent. We'll talk about cars, and we'll talk about steps, because, the reason that I wrote the book is because, most people don't have the confidence in themselves to believe that they can really decode their dreams. And it's not difficult. When I did this with high school students, I did it with, prominently students in grade 11, and they were 16. And I didn't have a lot of time in the curriculum to teach a lot of theory. And I hadn't written my book, but they were all doing it beautifully. They would blow me away with their insights because it's very intuitive. So first of all, you look at your life, you look at the emotions that you're experiencing in your life, and then you look at the dream. The dream is always a mirror image of your life, and it's reflecting back to you all your fears, your insecurities, your joys, your happiness. So when you're decoding a dream, the most important thing to look at is the emotions in the dream, because it's usually the same emotions that you're feeling in your life. So one of the most common, symbols or themes in a dream is driving a car. And I love this because
Hmm.
it's so unique and so different for different people at different stages in their life. In most dreams, it's all about you. And that's one of the big things that people don't understand in the beginning is even if you're dreaming about other things or other people or other places, everything in that dream is trying to help you. So the car is a symbol of you. And the car is a symbol of how you motor, maneuver, and move through life. So the car is a symbol of your body. And so let's say that the car is going too fast and you can't put on the brakes. What do you
Hmm.
think that means?
Yeah, I guess maybe there's some hectic things going on in your life, and maybe you're feeling you're out of control in real life.
You can't put on the brakes because you're out of control. What about if you had a dream and you could hardly see out the windows because there was so much garbage and stuff, you had like food and all kinds of stuff in your car?
That one would be trickier. I don't know what that would mean. I haven't had one like that.
So it would probably mean that you can't see clearly. You can't see clearly at that
Okay.
point in your life. You can't see where you're going because you've got a lot of extraneous things in your life that are cluttering, that are preventing your vision from being clear. So you might have too many activities. You might have a really sort of cluttered house, like you haven't had time to clean it or clear away stuff. So the state of the car represents the state of your life. And then the speed at what the car is going will represent, the speed of your life. So if you're having a dream and let's say you're going super, super slow and everyone is passing you, that could indicate that at that point in your life, things are moving really slowly and people are passing you. And if you want to be successful, you have to kind of pick up the pace. That could be the message there. So if the car, let's say the car was overheated and there was all these flames coming out of the hood, that could indicate that maybe that day you had a huge argument and you were really heated up and really, really angry. And that's what that dream is all about. It was really interesting. And now the position of where you are in the car is really,
Mm. Hmm.
when I was teaching high school, all of my students had these dreams where they were in the back seat and their parents were driving them. And that was symbolically representing kind of where they were in life because they weren't really in control. I mean, they're still living under their parents' roof and their parents are calling the shots. So that dream was really saying, you still have to listen to what your parents want to do, and your parents are really ultimately in control here. So let's say you were a teenager and you had that dream many, many times where you're in the back seat. And then, maybe 3 years later, you have a dream and you're sitting in the front seat and you're driving and you're feeling really good. That kind of dream might happen when you left home and got your own place for the first time, or maybe when you went away to university and made that break from your parents, or maybe you went to college, or maybe you just went to a job, a really good job out of school, and you're now independent from your parents. So that's what that dream would mean. So do you see how it's kind of
Yeah. No, I've had ones exactly like that where oftentimes I'm the one driving, and it's something where like the steering wheel, like I don't quite have control of the car, but I'm the one driving. I've also had ones where my mom's driving and she's driving too slow and I'm like, move over, I'm driving. And then I drive too fast and I end up in the lake.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
just, yeah,
Mhm.
totally weird, random stuff. What do you think about the stair one? What could the stairs mean, with the stairs being like all weird warped shapes? And
Oh,
well, maybe it has something to do with like obstacles, because I would find when I'd have them, there would be like it would be stairs connecting to somewhere, but there'd always be like a strange obstacle that I had to like leap over or jump over because things would be missing.
yes, and you've kind of interpreted the dream just in your description. So if you looked at your life when you had that dream, there was probably some sort of obstacle and something in your life preventing you from reaching the top or reaching the bottom of those stairs. So again, the stairs represent where we're going in life and how we're getting there. A path, like in the forest, can represent the same thing. So let's say you're trying to achieve a goal. Going up the stairs would symbolically represent, achieving that goal. So let's say you're going to try to start a new business and you have a stair dream. If you were going up the stairs and you got to the top and you had lots of energy and you were successful, let's say it's a big long flight of stairs, that's probably meaning, you're gonna get to the top. You're literally, it's kind of lit, it's symbolic. You're gonna get to the top. But let's say there was obstacles and the stairs took twists and turns. Well, that means there's going to be obstacles along the way. You're going to have twists, you're going to have turns before you accomplish what you want to accomplish.
Okay, so a stair one can be more about obstacles, and the driving one is kind of more about what's going on in your life at the time and how you're doing.
How you're moving through life. The car is a vehicle for how you move through life. Yeah, like you could be moving fast, you could be moving slow, you could be following a direct route, you could be taking lots of obstacles or side trips. And then where you are in the car is significant. How you feel when you're driving in the car.
Maybe who's in the car with you?
Who's in the car with you, or if you're alone, you could have animals in the car with you, So you kind of look at all those things and you look at your life and you know what? It always fits together. Like it always makes absolute sense. One of the most important things to realize is like in decoding a dream, I think it's mostly intuition, but it always, there's logic involved too. Like, so there's usually a logical fit. There's usually something that intuitively you kind of go, yeah, that's it. But it's going to make logical sense as well.
Yeah, and I really like how you focus on that in the book, because there are lots of dream books and dream dictionaries and different archetypes and things. But yeah, that you can have those sort of, and I know you've said there's some that are better than others, but so it's nice to have some of the dictionaries and the definitions, but it's ultimately you who's going to read something and go, that's it. You're going to feel, or you're going to know within yourself, like, oh, that's kind of bang on for me.
Yes, there's going to be like this aha moment, where you just know, like it's just like it clicks and that's it, or sometimes, when I first started, journaling my dreams and understanding them back in my 20s, I would literally get like a tingle or a shiver, and that was my intuition saying, yeah, you've got it, that's it. Yeah, it's a real, when people really start that process of journaling your dreams and really getting them and understanding them, it's really a high, it's a real natural high, and it feels amazing.
Okay, and we talked a bit about, so there's the themes, but then there can be people that recur in dreams. And I know you've talked about how like the dream is about you. So yeah, how can people kind of figure out, for example, if they happen to dream, a recurring character is, say, like an ex-boyfriend, for example. Like, what would that mean that you keep, or various people they keep seeming to pop up in your dream, and not even in the same theme, but it's like that character is recurring over years.
Okay, so yeah, it can be tricky, but like you always kind of go back to what I said before. You kind of look at your life and you look at what's going on in your life, and it will make sense. But sometimes the people in your dreams, like, so a dream is just like a play, it's like, theater of the soul. So you're the director of this play. And sometimes you're the main character. Usually you're the main character. Sometimes there's another character or another person that represents you. Now, when you look at what your personality is, if that person is exhibiting the personality traits that you have or the emotions that you have, that person, or the problems or issues that you have, that person will represent you. But if but if they're not, it's like they're an actor or a player in your play. You know, they're just part of the drama to help you understand what's going on. So I'll give you an example. The very first client that I had when I was doing dream therapy, you know, this woman had just had a very nasty divorce, and there was a lot of difficulty with settling the finances and money and how it was going to be allocated. Now, she had this dream, and there was a monster in the dream. Now, you know, to answer your question is, okay, how do you know whether the monster represents her or whether the monster represents someone else? So I said, okay, so what can you tell me about this monster? You know, what did he look like? And, you know, what was he saying anything? Was he doing anything? He was pursuing her, but she said he had this like heavy breathing, and it was the exact heavy breathing that her husband always had. So you knew right away that the monster was her husband, and he was pursuing her for money, more money, or better settlement with the divorce. So you look at the features of this person, and you kind of, you know, you ask yourself, do they have the features of themselves, or do they have the features of me? If they have the features of you, whoever this person or being is in the dream, it's you. And if it's someone else's characteristics, it's them. Yeah.
Okay.
But intuitively, usually, you know.
Okay. So, but let's say you have a dream where, let's say you're kind of dating or involved with someone, and they appear as a character in your dream, but in the dream, it kind of keeps recurring that it seems like that person is not available. That seems to be like the message you wake up with is always like, oh, this person's they're not really available. Does that mean that they're actually not available, or that you deep down are not available to be in the relationship? Do you know what I mean? Like, is it about you, or is it actually about them?
Okay, so probably if you're dreaming about them and the message is that they're not available, then that's exactly what it is. They are probably not available, maybe physically, maybe they live in a different location, but it's probably that emotionally they're not available and they won't be available for you. So as long as you keep on dreaming that dream and the message is that they're not available, they're not available.
Okay. So that's tough. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you will continue to have that dream. Like, let's say you're really, really hung up on some guy, and you keep on having this dream that they're not available, but you just don't want to admit it. You want to hang on to this person.
Mm-hmm.
You can have that dream for like years and years and years until something changes. Either you decide to move on, or you end up with a different partner, or that person moves on, and so you really realize they're not available. So a dream will continue and it will repeat until you have a different, until you understand what it's all about and make some changes in your life. Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's where I kind of get stuck, or what I find tricky is because in cases like that, it can seem really hard to know if it's about me or the other person, because in some ways it ultimately seems like a wash. Like it's about maybe me just as much as it's about them, in that, you know, if I were interested in that person, ultimately on some level, if the dream's telling me they're not available, because if I were pursuing someone who's not available, on some level I may not be available. Because sometimes I think people make choices or pursue things, you know, if they're kind of scared, or like they're resistant. So it's like that person might seem resistant, but they're also resistant. So it can be just as much about that person as them. Does that make sense?
it could be that you're both not available, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe you're both not available for different reasons at that point in time.
Yeah. Yeah. I find I tend to have a lot of those ones that'll like either surround a partner from a long time ago, which I'm sometimes like, why is this person still showing up in my dreams, who I haven't talked to in many, many years? And then sometimes a more recent situation where, um, weird things where it can be like you have a dream about someone where, and in the dream, the person, you know, uh, maybe they tell you they love you or like something like that. And you kind of wake up and have to think like, oh, is that is that partly me testing out to know how I feel about them? Like, because if they tell me that in the dream, how do I feel about it? And then if you don't feel anything in the dream, or you feel like feelings of friendship or neutrality, it's almost like that dream gave you a chance to test out, you
Hmm.
know, how you feel about them.
Yeah, yeah, that's one of the huge functions of dreams is you test things out, you explore, and you see how you feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, to me, that's a good example of it. Like you could have that dream and think, oh, this person like loves me, but like that doesn't necessarily, that's probably not about them at all, because I don't think people generally have dreams where they're going to get a message from another person that isn't necessarily true, I guess. Or do you think people can subconsciously pick up on things from other people? It just seems like not safe to have a dream like that, for example, and to assume that's what it means, because that's not probably what it means that person's thinking, especially if you're not with the person anymore, for example.
You can absolutely pick up on other people's emotions and how they're feeling in dreams. You can absolutely, yeah. Like let's say you were really interested in someone, and that person just wasn't interested in you. You
Mm-hmm.
have a dream where that person just kind of said, I'm not interested in you, or, you saw that person with someone else. Yeah, you can, people communicate through dreams all the time. We're just not aware of it. Because the communication isn't physical. It's telepathic and it's nonverbal, but it's going on all the time.
But do you think that would be kind of like, I guess, unwise for someone to, yeah, have a dream where the person, say, is someone they used to be in a relationship with, and that person has moved on. So that person's in a new relationship, but they have a dream that person's interested in them in the dream. But in their waking life, they don't think that's true. Then what might be going on there?
It could be wish fulfillment, like a lot of dreams. I find a lot of dreams around love and romances are you sort of wishing things would be how they were, or you wish the person had feelings for you. That happens to us a whole lot in our dreams.
So what do you think in that case is like, what would be a good way for people to try to help themselves tell the difference between, and not even if it was wishful, like let's say that they weren't interested in the person. So it just seemed almost like, but I guess you can tell. So for example, I'll just say it for myself, when I had that dream, when I had a dream like that, when I woke up, I felt like the message was, because in the dream I didn't feel like I was in love with that person. But when I woke up, I thought to myself, I think this dream is supposed to be reminding me that at one point there was love between that person and myself. And I need to be careful to remember that, so that in my everyday dealings with them, that I'm kind and assume the best. That was sort of my interpretation of it.
And that could be absolutely right. That could be absolutely right. It's really hard for me to know
Yeah,
because I don't know you and I don't know that person. I don't know what's
of
going.
course.
Like when I do dream therapy, I have to really spend about an hour to an hour and a half really interviewing that person and really finding out a lot about their life and their challenges, and before I can really even begin to understand a dream. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's important to know. Like I can't just figure out what someone's dream is all about unless I really have an in-depth. conversation with them.
Yeah, I guess I just highlight that because I would I would hate for someone to like have a dream where, you know, yeah, someone tells them they love them in their dream and then they wake up thinking, "Oh, this person still like loves me," when it probably doesn't mean that at all. And that could, because that can lead to its own sort of bag of problems in life if they actually thought that.
Mhm, mhm,
And that kind of goes on to how you talk about the idea that it's important to pay attention to the feeling in the dream, and that you can sort of intuitively, you know sort of like one sentence of like, this is the message from the dream. Could you talk
mhm.
about that a little bit?
Yeah, so it doesn't happen all the time, but if I always tell
Yeah.
people to journal their dreams in as much detail as possible and to record all the emotions that they're feeling. And often, if you write it down and you're writing it down and you have no idea what it means,
Mm.
and then you read it back and there's often a sentence like, I just felt like if I just kept on going, everything would be okay. And that's what the dream means. Or there might be a sentence that reads, I was totally afraid and I knew I couldn't do this. That's what that dream means. Or there could be a sentence that reads something like, I felt totally trapped and I couldn't break free of this situation. That's what the dream means. So there's often just one sentence that just kind of, very succinctly summarizes exactly what it means. So we've already decoded the meaning of our dreams without knowing it. And often it's so interesting because so often someone will tell me a dream, and at the end of the explanation, they'll have that sentence, and I kind of go, "You just figured out what your dream meant without me even having to tell you." So
Hmm.
if you're just aware of that, because it doesn't happen with every dream, but it happens with a lot.
Okay. Yeah. And that's something that I found once I'd read your book, that I started like, yeah. And yeah, it doesn't happen every time, but I started trying to apply that to my dreams and kind of think, okay, what is the message? What would be like one sentence that this is trying to tell me? And it's really helpful. And it does seem a lot of the time to work, and that you can intuitively get to that point
Mm.
for sure. Um, so what do you think about, you kind of talked about in your book the idea of, so let's say that there's something you're trying to figure out, and you can set the intention of trying to be, I guess, open to or aware in your dream to like have your dream help you. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I'm not sure what you mean, Lisa.
So, um, I think I could be wrong, but I think it was the idea that, like, let's say you were trying to think of like, okay, I have this job and I'm not sure what to do about this, whether I should like say look for a new job or keep working in my current job. And that the idea that you could use your dream, like set an intention before you go to sleep to maybe have something in your dream help answer that question for you.
Okay,
Yeah.
so really two parts of that answer. Number one is, if you're keeping a dream journal and you're having 5 or 6 dreams every night, you're going to have that answer already there, and probably it'll come up over and over and over again, but you're just not aware of it. But if that happens and you're not aware of it, all that you have to do is just in your dream journal. This doesn't work for me. Like, I've tried this and it doesn't work for me, but it might work for other people. You just write down your intention. So in your dream journal, just write down, is this job right for me? Or please give me a dream that indicates if this job is right for me. And then the other thing too is you have to be so patient, because um, you might not have a dream that answers that question right away. And the reason is because most of us are dealing with multiple issues and multiple things going on in our life, and we're sort of processing so many different things. And you might have a dream, you might feel that this thing about your job is the most pressing thing right now, but your soul or your spirit might feel that no, that's not the most important thing right now. The most important thing is for you to get over your fear of something. So maybe that's what your dreams are going to be about. But if you're patient and you keep journaling your dreams and you ask that question and you pray and you ask for guidance, that is so important. Most of us don't ask for guidance. If you can consciously get into the habit of asking for guidance before you go to bed, and then having gratitude, that is so important. Being grateful when something good comes into your life, or being grateful when you understand a dream and you get it and you're able to make some positive changes. But you'll absolutely get the answer. Now, here's something interesting. The answer may not come in the dream, because everything in the universe, with us not being aware of it, everything in the universe is trying to help you move forward. So you could say, is this job right for me? But the answer might come from a movie you watch. The answer might come from a book you're reading. The answer might come from a little kid you have a conversation with. So the answer can come in like a million creative ways. It could be in a song. You could wake up, hear a song, and the key line in the song might be the answer to your question. So I tell people, don't limit themselves to just the dream giving them the message. Be open, like sort of open your mind to everything in the universe that is working together to help you understand what you need to understand.
Yeah, I love that. I definitely agree. It just the connection between everything and how that works together to.
And sometimes you will have a dream, and then and it will give you the answer, but then you'll have something else, some other synchronistic event that just confirms it for you. So it's just this orchestra coming together and just harmonizing and trying to make everything go smoothly in your life.
I love that. I've even found, like, not necessarily in a dream, but I've had it happen only like once or twice, maybe once, where I've woken up and I was humming a song as I was waking up.
Yeah,
and then if you look up the song, you can kind of look at the lyrics and yeah, get some meaning from that.
that's really neat, Lisa. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't talk about this in your book, but I was interested to get your take on lucid dreaming.
Okay, I don't talk about it in my book because I'm not really an expert.
Okay.
But they're really, really fascinating. So for
Yeah.
people who don't know, a lucid dream is when you're aware in the dream that you're dreaming. And I only have had one lucid dream in my life. And in the lucid dream, I think it was the whole dream was I'm in this room, I pull the curtains and it's raining. And I go, oh, I'm going to change that rain to a sunny day, but it didn't happen. But lucid dreaming is a unique thing. And it just seems like there's some people, like, when I do these introductory dream talks, quite often I'll have someone that will come up to me and really says, I've been able to lucid dream my whole life. It's just a higher state of awareness, so that you're aware in the dream that you're dreaming. Now, there's been a lot of research done into lucid dreaming, and they found that people who have lucid dreams all the time and are able to remember them, they have a bigger prefrontal cortex in their brain. Now, the prefrontal cortex is where all your decisions get made. It's a really important center in your brain. So that prefrontal cortex is where all your empathy comes from, your insight, your emotions. It regulates your emotions. It's your sense of morality. It also modulates your fears. In my second book, I talk about the fact that the more you meditate and the more you look at your dreams, the less and less and less your fears are. So these people have a larger prefrontal cortex, which somehow enables them to have more lucid dreams. Now, one time I was doing a book signing in Oshawa, and I met a man, Sam Pardham, and he had developed a course. He's a Canadian. He had developed a course on lucid dreaming. And if anyone is interested, the website is HTTP, :/dream dash hacking period.com /course. So dream dash hacking period.com /course. So you can actually take this course that helps you to start lucid dreaming. But one of the things, it's people who are real meditators that seem to have a higher propensity for lucid dreaming, because it is just a heightened state of awareness. When I was teaching elementary school, I don't know if this book is still available, but I used to read my students this book. I'll hold it up. I pulled it out the other day. It's, can you see that? How to Get Rid of Bad Dreams.
Yes.
So it's really about lucid dreaming. So, like there are really positive, situations where you can turn lucid dreams into, so they're often, like with kids, they're scary. So the first example is, you're being chased by all these monsters. And what you do in the dream is just hold a mirror up to the monsters, and they all sort of cringe in fear. So it's a children's book, but it actually gives you all these techniques that in case you do have a lucid dream, what you can do to sort of help yourself in a situation. So lucid dreams are fascinating, but not something that we can all really expect that we're going to have on a regular basis. I find personally that, your dreams are just so fascinating, and as you change, your dreams change, that I haven't really delved into lucid dreaming because, my dreams are just so interesting.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, I was curious what you thought about that. Probably in my late 20s, I just like going through some different things. I was having issues with panic attacks. And during that time, I started lucid dreaming without trying to. And I feel like to me, it seemed like linked to, like maybe feeling a lack of control or ability to make things happen in real life seemed to be translating into my dreams, where I could then make stuff happen in my dreams. But I never tried to lucid dream. And I've since then haven't really had them so much anymore. And like you said, I kind of prefer to just to have dreams where it's more like a movie or something, where it's just kind of like presenting itself to you. I think that's pretty neat.
But that's interesting that you started to just lucid dream when you were having a...
Yeah, because I was starting to have issues with like dissociative disorder, a little, like where you feel like you're kind of looking through like glass. And I just really felt myself sort of, just like not being able to be present in my life very well. And I realized from talking, to different, like at my doctor or whatever, that it turned out I had issues with anxiety that I had no idea that I had, because I'd always felt the way I felt. So it wasn't until I was made aware of that I looked back and thought, oh, I've always had, issues with anxiety. And I didn't realize that I felt any different than anybody else. So, yeah. So one thing I think is interesting is how, you talk about this idea that we can sort of test things out in dreams, in different scenarios to see, like maybe if you're thinking of taking a job and say you keep having recurring dreams where it's like, that's going to work out and it seems like successful. And so and you feel at ease that you can make that decision and you feel confident. But then sometimes something will happen where, like the day before you start that new job or the day before you give that presentation, you have a stressful dream that night. What do you think is happening there?
Oh, that's just like the classic fear dreams.
Okay.
We all have fear dreams all the time. So, let's say you are going to start a new job, and then you have the fear dream the night before. That, number one, it's important for people to realize that doesn't mean that what happens in the dream is going to happen in real life. It absolutely probably will not happen. But what we do in the dream state is we rehearse and we walk through all our fears. so that the day that the new job has, starts, you kind of released all your fears and you can start, with a more confident sort of, frame of mind.
Okay.
We all have those fearful dreams, whenever we're starting something new. Yeah, yeah. And
Hmm.
like these are all excellent questions, Lisa. Like something that I, wanted to point out when you were talking about how we rehearse things in our dreams. Like one of the fascinating and wonderful things about dreams is it allows us to do things that we can't do in our physical body. Like in our physical body, we're limited by time and we're limited by space. But when you dream, it's your soul going out and having these adventures. So, you go off of the linear sort of time track and you can frequently go forward in time and test things out. So let's say you have a job in Canada, it's not COVID, and you get offered a job in England. Now, you might not be able to really go over to England and, visit the place you're going to work, but you can do it in your dreams. So people frequently do that. They'll go over and they'll check out the place. They'll have dreams where they're actually doing the job, so they can see how it feels, so that they can make the decision. So that's a really wonderful, wonderful feature of dreams. And that's why we have deja vu experiences, because we've actually gone forward in time and, witnessed things or tested things out or tried things. And then you forget about it most of the time. And then when that actual event happens, you get this spooky feeling like, oh, I've heard this before, I've been here before. It's because you really have been there before. Your soul, your astral body has been there before. So it's a really wonderful, wonderful feature of dreams.
I'm really glad you brought that up because that was something I wanted to ask you about. So you do talk about in the book this idea of different dimensions and that they have unique characteristics so that you can tell once you've had a dream maybe what dimension it refers to. Could you explain that a bit?
Yeah, so most of us, unless you're like super, super highly evolved or you're almost enlightened, I would say all of your dreams will be in the astral dimension, which is very similar to Earth, only kind of just it's a different dimension. The vibration, the frequency is different. So most of our dreams will take place either on Earth, we're checking things out on Earth, or in the astral dimension. Now, the way that like I always have dreams where I'm trying to get back to like, maybe my house or the shopping center or a park, but I get lost. And
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you brought that up. I meant to ask you about that and totally forgot. I've had that happen lately where it's like the getting lost dreams, getting lost in the city. What does that mean?
so it can be two things. Number one, it can be that you're just in the astral dimension and it
Okay.
looks like Earth, but not exactly, because it's almost like a template. Like the different dimensions are like templates, one on top of the other. So if you take the template of Earth, if there's mountains, the template above in the astral there'll be mountains. The template above that, a different level of the astral, will be even bigger mountains. So the different dimensions will mirror the physical structure of Earth. Um, but you could have a dream where you're lost because in life you feel like you're lost.
Mm.
So the being lost in the astral, sometimes it's just making you aware that there is that different dimension and it was all part of your dream. But being lost could actually symbolically represent that you're feeling lost in life. Yeah. I've had dreams, I think, that don't really mean a whole lot. Like they're not really me working through emotional issues, but they've taught me about, it's like I get this break and I get to travel to a different dimension and experience what it's like so that I know and so that I can kind of talk sort of semi-intelligently about what these dimensions are like. Yeah. And so yeah, you'll have these wonderful dreams where you're just going to different dimensions just to increase your awareness that they really are real and they really do exist.
Okay, so you mentioned the astral. What are the other ones?
Well, this is all part of sort of Hindu philosophy. They believe there's the astral,
Okay.
and the astral is enormous. Like the astral is so big, I don't think our mind can even comprehend how big it is. And there's different levels of the astral. So I would say most of our dreams are in the astral. And then above the astral is the causal level. And that's the level where, you know, God lives, the saints, the angels, the ascended masters. Most of our dreams will not be in the causal because our vibration isn't really high enough to sort of enter that dimension. So we will be mostly either going forward in time, so we'll travel forward in time in a dream, or we'll go to different levels of the astral dimension.
And going forward in time, that's not that's not that common, is it? Or is that pretty
Oh,
common?
very, very, very.
Okay.
Yeah. If you've never kept a dream journal, you kind of think, well, that's really kind of a bizarre thing to do. But once you start keeping a dream journal, you'll realize you go forward in time all the time. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. To give you an example, like about, I just moved back. I lived in the Toronto area or the GTA for most of my life. And you know, I always said I was never going to move back to my hometown, which is Smith Falls, Ontario.
Mhm.
So about 3 years ago, I started to have these reoccurring dreams. And the whole dream was I'm standing on the main street of Smith Falls, and there's this humongous hole that's been dug. The whole street's been dug up. And I'm just kind of standing there and I'm watching and I'm thinking, wow, this is a huge hole. And this dream kept on occurring over and over again. And it was the same, but it was slightly different. Like I'd be standing at a different spot on the street, but there was always this big hole being dug. And I really wasn't sure if it was like I had issues from my childhood that I needed to look at, you know, because sometimes when you go back to a childhood sort of place that represents, you know, childhood issues that you haven't dealt with. But I really thought I had dealt with all my childhood issues. So I was really kind of, you know, perplexed at why I was having this dream over and over again. So I made the decision to move back to Smith Falls. A month after I moved here, they started to do this major renovation of the main street, and they completely dug up the street, and it looked exactly like my dream. And the street has been dug up for over a year, and they're going to finish it hopefully in another month or two. But so the dream didn't really mean a whole lot. I was just time traveling. I was going forward 2 to 3 years in time and just observing, you know, this is what it's going to look like when I move here. Now, it's very cool when you start to make those connections. But yeah, we all do it. We all go forward in time because you can plan things and you can see things and you can see how things are going to work out. And that information is really valuable to you. Your mind will have no idea, you know, what's going to happen 2 years down the road, but your soul will, and it will emotionally prepare you. So I was being sort of emotionally prepared for like moving back to Smith Falls and having this big hole on the main street for a whole year. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting. I feel like mine so far from what I can tell seem to focus more on the present, but I do keep a dream journal. I've kept one for the last 3 years or so, but so I'll keep an eye out more for maybe if there's some that kind of direct me toward the future. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell people, you know, if you have a dream and it just makes absolutely no sense, like if you can't sort of connect anything in your life to the issues or what's going on in the dream, it's probably because you have gone forward in time and something has to physically happen before you understand what the dream means. So I'll give you another example. I had a friend and she was in a marriage, and the marriage broke up after many years. And well, first of all, I'm going to backtrack. This friend was living in a very nice house with her husband and 2 children, and she kept on having this dream of living in a basement. And it wasn't a very nice basement. It was kind of a little dark and dingy and smelly. And this dream kept on reoccurring and reoccurring and reoccurring. And she didn't really know what it was about. And it didn't really make any sense in relation to her life at that time, because she'd gone forward about 10 years in time in this dream. Well, fast forward 10 years, her marriage breaks up. She has nowhere to really go except this friend's basement that's a bit, dark, dingy, and smelly. And that's where she ended up living for several months. And then after she was there, she realized, oh my God, this is this place that was in my dreams. So it was kind of helping her prepare well in advance for what was really going to happen. It's a really
Okay.
wonderful, miraculous feature of dreams. We all go forward in time, whether we're aware of it or not.
Okay. Yeah.
We don't go backward. This is important to point out. We generally don't go backward in time. And I was going to say, why do you think that is? Because, you can't change the past. So there's no purpose in going really backward in time. But if you have information about the future, it can help you prepare and it can help you make better informed decisions.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't know if I can even really recall going back in the past on any. So yeah. But I just wanted to give you a chance to let people know kind of what you're doing right now, if you have any kind of workshops you're working on, or what sort of your interests are right now with that, and where people can find out more about you.
Okay, yeah. Because of COVID, I'm not really doing a lot, because everything I did involved working with people. So right now I'm focusing mostly. I've just moved to Smith Falls, and my kind of dream, I've got this beautiful house with beautiful perennial gardens, and there's a lovely pond at the back. So I'm really working on the property to make it as beautiful as possible, because what I'd like to do is to have this place as a healing center. So a place where people can come for classes, workshops, or day spa experiences, because there's several things I do. I do workshops on dreams and understanding your dreams, but I do one-on-one dream therapy, and that can be done over the phone. I'm also a Qigong teacher. Qigong is fabulous, and I'm also a yoga teacher. So I built a little studio in my basement, and I'm hoping to teach classes there. I do the Myers-Briggs as well. And all of the things that I do are on my website, which is www.marina, Marina, Quattro. So the first part of my name, Quattro.com. So www.marinaquattro.com. I also just started in the last year, I started to do tarot card readings. And I used to think tarot was really kind of hocusy pocusy. But then I started really being drawn to tarot and investigating tarot. And I was always really attracted to different decks. And then I started reading how a lot of therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists were using tarot in their practice. So I've just in the last year started doing tarot readings. And what's really wonderful is to do an hour or two with someone where we work on their dreams, and then I do a tarot reading for them, because whatever the dreams are telling them, is usually very, very similar to what the tarot reading is saying. So
Interesting.
that's something new that I've just started to do. Yeah.
Okay. And so do you think, and so you were saying with COVID, you can't really do the workshops. How are things going with that though? Are things getting a little more, I guess, especially if you were eventually doing workshops, do you usually do them inside, outside? And can you, I guess you can at some point have like a certain number of people?
Yeah, I usually do them inside, like
Okay.
workshops are done inside. Yeah. The only thing I've done outside, I've always taught, or for the past, I guess, 5 years, I've taught yoga
Okay.
classes outside in my garden. There was a beautiful garden where I lived in Toronto. So I'm hoping to eventually teach those outdoor yoga classes in my garden here in Smiths Falls.
Okay, cool. Yeah, speaking of Southern Ontario, I was so excited when I read your first book, and I didn't know, obviously, when I read it, like I hadn't checked to see, where you were from. And then I thought, you know what, it'd be really cool to speak with her sometime. And then I was like, whoa, she's like spent tons of time in Southern Ontario. And now she actually lives not too far from where I live now. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I liked that sort of connection of locations that we have as well.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really felt very pulled. It was a real, well, I had many, many, many dreams, kind of, indicating that this was the right thing. But yeah, I felt very, very pulled to move back here. Yeah.
Okay, neat. And also, I just wanted to say how much even I was reading through in preparation for our conversation today, I was reading through your first book a little bit last night, and just how much I appreciate how like humble that you are in, when you write about stuff and you talk about sort of like you say these are my ideas, this is what I think and feel based on my experience, but people should kind of read for themselves and see what feels right to them. And I
Mhm,
love that, because that just makes it just makes everything feel so approachable,
mhm,
right? Because it doesn't feel forced, it doesn't feel like stringent, like strict.
mhm.
Just the way you write about things is so welcoming, and I love it. It's just wonderful.
Thank you so much. Yeah, like as a writer, because I'm writing a lot about things that are controversial, and very personal, that I really wanted people to, not feel that I'm trying to preach to them or tell them what they should believe. I really believe that, everybody believes what they believe for a reason, and that you
Mm.
should force your ideas or your beliefs on anyone. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and you do really such a beautiful job of getting that across. And if anything, I think it really, like for me, I feel that, and then it makes me feel more open to receiving and understanding. So
thanks.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, so Marina, it's been like just fantastic for me to get to talk to you about this stuff. I love geeking out over things to do with dreams. So, thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome, and thank you. I mean, I love talking about this. I mean, I could talk like 15 hours nonstop about dreams. So, and I haven't gotten a chance to do it very much because of COVID. So, thank you so much for indulging me, Lisa.
Yeah, yeah, great talking to you.